participants for this session. We have Dr. K. Jayakumar. He is currently working as assistant professor in the Department of Animal Behavior and Physiology in Madurai Kamaraj University. Actually, we are fortunate to have Dr. Jayakumar as a resource person for this session. He is a person fascinating towards the research that is field-oriented research. Dr. Jayakumar is having more than 2 decades of research experience in the Gulf of Mannar and Pakpe in the southern peninsular India. So one of his papers after tsunami that was published in Current Science, its most significant contribution of his team towards the natural disturbance to the coral reefs. So now he is working on impact of climate change on corals in the Gulf of Mannar region. So he is a diver. He used to visit the Gulf of Mannar Biosphere Reserve for all the field-oriented research activities. So with these few words, on behalf of you, on behalf of myself and the organizing committee, I welcome Dr. K. Jayakumar for this session. Yeah, now we are thankful to you for accepting our invitation, sir. Now we are welcoming you to deliver the lecture, sir.
Thank you, Professor, for your nice introduction. Okay. So the PowerPoint is visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Okay. Good evening to one and all. So is echo? Is echoing? Okay.
Yeah, it's audible.
Okay. Good evening to one and all. Indeed, it is my pleasure to have given this session in this evening, and it is more appropriate to talk about these coral reefs and the marine ecosystem because currently we are facing never cyclone, never so it is highly relevant and today I would like to talk about impacts of climate change on coral reefs. And almost you are aware that the coral resources are tropical in nature, and the importance lies in the fact that almost half of the human population are living around 50-kilometer radius near the coastal areas. And more than 275 million people live within 10 kilometers of coastline and within 30 kilometers of coral reef resource area. And 1/8 of world population, approximately 850 million people, live within 100 kilometers of corals and are likely to get the benefits from the coral reef ecosystem services, either directly or indirectly. And this large proportion of the human population live in developing countries and island nations. And island nations, they are totally depending upon these coastal resources. So, of the major and the principal coastal resources, there are mangroves, seagrass ecosystem, seaweed ecosystem, coral reef ecosystem, all of these. That coral reef ecosystem plays a vital role because it provides direct and indirect employment, a resource for the coastal population, and most of the island nations and the developing countries are depending 60 to 70% economic source for their survival and sustenance in the coastal areas. And that income directly from most of the ecotourism related activities nowadays is the major source for these developing countries and island nations. Okay. So that the economical contribution from these coastal resources are, according to one estimate, the total annual earnings of coral reef ecosystem from the world is approximately 29.8 billion. Tourism and leisure activities and food resources, coastal protection, and biodiversity conservation. And these are all innumerable, and day by day we are depending on these coastal resources, especially on coral reefs. Unlike people are often confused with whether coral reef, corals are plants or animals. Corals are basically is an animal and they are belongs to the phylum Coelentrates. So a coral is actually a coral colony because the functional unit of this coral reef resources is these polyps. The millions of these polyps together constitute the coral reef structures or coral colony, and this coral colony in due course forms large coral reef structures. And these polyps are very microscopic organism, and the coral reef always exhibit the best example for symbiosis because that coral reef always requires the support of plant host, that is dinoflagellate algae. This dinoflagellate algae provides energy source. Almost 90% of the feeding requirement for the corals, that is animal portion of these corals, is obtained from this dinoflagellate. So this dinoflagellate algae, the zooxanthellae, always sit in the endosymbiotic cavity of the uh, polyp. So this coral is as an animal with an algal symbiont. So this is the best example for symbiosis on the marine ecosystem. And almost all the corals are colonial organisms because millions of these coral polyps, the polyps are functional basic units, and millions of these coral polyps forms largest structures like these calcium carbonate structures. These calcium carbonate structures of the corals are mostly they are fragile in nature. In some cases, they are rocky substances, and in these cases they are very strong, and in most of the cases they are very much fragile in nature. And each polyp has a stomach that opens at only one end, that is mouth, surrounded by a circle of tentacles. And these tentacles are helpful to get the zooplankton and other organic material for these organisms as food. And even then, only 10%, 10 to 15 percentage of the feeding requirement is fulfilled by these tentacles by the organism itself. For remaining 90%, this organism totally depending upon this coral host, that is endosymbiotic algae, dinoflagellate algae. Coming to the importance of these coral reefs, these tropical coral reefs are all over the world. They're spreading across 284,000 square kilometers worldwide. And you can see up to surface to 50-meter depth where the corals growth are abundance. And almost more than 1 million species of approximately 25 percentage of marine life and biodiversity found in these coral reefs because they provide shelter for most of the organisms, right from zooplankton to up to sharks. And what are the importance of these coral reefs? Because this biodiversity, these coral reefs are valuable because they support huge amounts of biodiversity, fisheries. Other than fisheries, they support shoreline protection. During the course of tsunami or other cyclonic activity, these coral reefs act as shock absorbers. They just is absorbing the wave action and protects the shorelines in the coastal areas. Besides this, they provide raw materials for pharmaceuticals, providing new bioactive compounds to treat human ailments. Other than this, tourism and education, because ecotourism is the breadwinner for most of the island nations in the developing countries. Other, besides this, it provides cultural and social values. And often these coral reefs are compared with the marine equivalent of rainforest in terms of productivity and biodiversity species. As you all aware that these rainforests in the terrestrial conditions are very much unique in terms of supporting huge amount of biodiversity. That is why these coral reefs are often compared with the terrestrial rainforest, and they are often called as rainforest of the sea in terms of supporting huge biodiversity in marine area, especially coastal areas. These coral reefs provide suitable habitats for millions of ornamental fishes and food fishes and acts as breeding and feeding grounds for them. See, these coral structures, the large reef structures, continues across to hundreds of thousands of kilometers. For example, the largest coral reefs are found in Great Barrier Reef in northern Australia. So the extent of the coral reefs, the fringing reefs, spread over across thousands coast of India, northern coast of Australia. So it provides huge amount of feeding grounds, and they provide opportunities, employment opportunities to ecotourism and fishery activities. And these coral reefs are often found as an important indicators because they are highly sensitive to any kind of changes in the physical or chemical composition of the marine waters. Any change as occurs in the water quality, then ultimately it will reflect in the coral reef structures by manifestation. And these are also indicators of long-term health of the marine environment. Besides all, these coral reefs behaves as an indicator organism in the marine coastal environment. So where coral reefs are located, almost one-sixth of the world's coastlines are having these coral reefs. You can find this either side of the equator from 30 degrees south and 30 degrees north. You can find abundance of these coral reefs in the Caribbean coast and in American, South American, North American junction and in the Southeast Asia. This area is called Coral Triangle, where you could see the large number of corals and that at the African coast. And this coral triangle, the Southeast Asian coral triangle, are very much popular. And these the best coral reefs representing Indo-Pacific coral reefs, having large number of diversity and very much resilience in the global level. And it is one fourth of the fish resources are founding in this area, and almost one tenth of total fisheries catch is from these coral reef areas in the global level. So, in spite of the fact that the coral reefs covers less than 2% or 2% in the ocean floor, their contribution is vast enough, and almost, as I mentioned, more than 25% of the marine fish species are found in these areas. And this, even though it is less than 2%, their contribution in the food source and shelter and act as a reproduction and nursery ground, their contribution is very much valuable. So they are home to an estimated 2 million species or approximately within this 2 percentage of this coral reef area. Socioeconomic aspect, for example, that the coral reef contribution in terms of US dollars, it is zero point 0.7 million US dollar per square kilometer per year. So this is constantly increasing, and that loss of this coral reef is estimated as approximately 8,200 million US dollars during the course of 1990s bleaching event. So, most of the developing countries and island nations, they are totally depending these resources for their survival. Even the nation's economy and politics will greatly influenced by these resources in almost 20, 60 to 70 countries in the world. So the coral reefs are found in numerous structure and various shapes. Okay. So of these, the predominant coral reefs are found in the branching corals and these foliaceous corals, these massive corals, they are rock-like structures, and columnar corals and laminar corals like plate-like corals. So these are all the popular corals found in the tropical climates. And these free-living corals are found very rarely, and interesting corals also found when near the turbulent waters. So these are some of the size and shape of the corals. So first, the basic units are polyps, but these numerous polyps can build like structures like this massive and fringing corals like this branching and short branching corals, and these are free living corals. And these are all huge structure, and they can go up to various depth, and depending upon the turbulence and water clarity, this coral can grow as much as. So typically, that coral reef distribution found along the all along the either side of the equator, from 30° north to 30° south, and here you can see the Southeast Asia and then Australia, and these areas are highly diverse coral reefs are there. Here it is Southeast Asia, South Asia. You can see the Maldives, Laxadweeps, and that's the Gulf Indian coast and African coast and the Caribbean areas, where you can see abundance of coral reefs and in either side of the equator. So this either side of the equators, you could find a huge amount of coral. It is because of abundance of sunshine are available throughout the year. So sunshine is the vital factor for the reef building in any given area. So coral reef supports more than 1 billion people, and you can see these are all the areas where the coral reef resources are predominantly used by the people. So the either side of the equator, and you can see that uh, Caribbean islands and other South African, North American junctions where the people are using, and that Australian coast, Northern Australia, Great Barrier Reef, and Southeast Asia, Thailand, and Indonesia, and in our continent, India, and African continent. Since it harbors more than one fourth of the ocean life and worth of 375 billion US dollars are coming from this coastal resources and coral reef resources all along the way, and it is increasing day by day. So the coral reef stretch in India is, and you may aware that almost is 8,000 kilometers of Indian coastal area, coastal line is there, and approximately 7,000 are effectively in the mainland, and the coral reefs are found in the Gulf of Kutch, central west coast, and southwest coast, and Gulf of Mannar, Park Bay of Visakhapatnam coast, Lakshadweep coast, and Andaman and Nicobar coast. But of which that corals found in Andaman Nicobar, Gulf of Mannar are endowed with more diversity of coral reefs and Lakshadweep, and you can see that some others in the Gulf of Kutch. But the Gulf of Kutch, it is a highly stressed environment, so the diversity will be very low. Compared to southeast coast coral reefs, you can see that the entire Gulf of Mannar and Park Bay is typically having huge amount of coral reefs, and this area almost more than 1,000 kilometer coastal stretch in Tamil Nadu, that almost the coral reefs are found in the Gulf of Mannar, starting from Rameswaram to end up at Tuticorin. There are 21 islands in the Gulf of Mannar, and in Park Bay near Rameswaram to up to Vedali point of this Park Bay, that is northern side of Park Bay, is having huge amount of reefs. In Gulf of Mannar, there are 21 islands in the four groups, and of which 7 islands in the Mandapam group. So these are the 7 groups. From Kilakari, there are 7 islands, and here it is the Soil Woody, that is member group. There are 4 islands, and Tuticorin is 4 islands. In member group, only 3 islands. So there are 21 islands. Of these, 3 islands are submerged. So only during lowest to low tide only you can see the islands. But corals are found all around the islands, in and around the islands, and this is a typical biosphere reserve. So Gulf of Mannar Biosphere Reserve, the first of its kind in Asia, and it supports huge amount of coastal coral reef resources. And to study any institute, any exact and accurate study, we need to adopt some methodologies. Since these are all the organisms, coral reef organisms are mostly fixed in the substrate, and we need to have enter into the waters, and we have to see the coral reefs in situ. And to suit this mode of study, we need to study that underwater technique called scuba diving. So scuba diving is nothing but self-containing underwater breathing apparatus. So it is scuba diving is certified by Professional Association of Diving Instructors, PADI. This training is given by this Australian paddy body, and they are giving in so many diving centers in Goa and Andaman Nicobar, and there are 8 to 10 levels. And to make studies in the coral reef area, at least we must qualify ourselves at scuba open water or advanced open water scuba diving course. So with this certification, you can enter into waters up to 25 meters. So in this scuba diving, you are supported by fins and mask and the scuba tank. And this scuba tank, we can have 4,000 lbs air. This air is normal air, and it is very much supporting your underwater exploration studies in the coral reef areas up to 40 to 50 minutes, during which you can take whatever studies like underwater video imaging, and study the coral reef communities studies in this area. In the Gulf of Mannar, we have recorded over the years. We have started my PhD work there from 1995 to 2005, of which I have recorded more than 82 species belonging to 27 genera of 10 families. And these are some of the major coral reefs found in the Gulf of Mannar, the rock-like structure, the massive stones. This belongs to corates, and some of the other corals, Favia species, Favius ablita, these are rock-like structures, and they are found in 2 to 3 meters. And these finger-like corals, Acropora formosa and Hyacinthus, Acropora hyacinthus, they are nothing but plate-like corals found in the very shallow water. Since the Gulf of Mannar is most shallow, these coral species are very much popular in this area because they are very fast growing coral reefs, and we find in 1 to 2 meters depth. You can see this, and these are all forms a fringing structure from the entire area, and this spread goes up to 3 to 4 kilometers in the Gulf of Mannar, in the Mandabam group of islands. So these are all the areas where fish species are found along the entire coast. Some of the coral reefs found in the depth zones, and this you can find in the more than 3 to 5 to 6 meters. These are rock-like structure. These are Acropora cytherea, Echinopora lamellosa, and Mantipora foliosa. These foliose corals and these porate lobata. This is found in large rock-like structures. So most of the corals are adapted to escape from the sedimentation and other troubles, water speed and wave action. So their size and structures are totally based upon the location where they are found. Because in the open area waters, you can see these corals are predominantly there. In shallow water, without the water turbulence area, you could see these three corals. And the importance lies in the fact that these coral reefs are harboring a huge amount of fishes. Okay, of these fishes, half of the coral reef fishes are highly colorful, and they are very much attractive colors. And these coral reefs, of these 150 species we have recorded ornamental fish in nature, they belongs to 53 genera and 28 families. More than 200 to 300 species of fishes are found in this area, but most of them are edible, and half of them are very ornamental in nature. And these three fishes are sensitive to environmental disturbances. And most of the coral reef fishes are exhibiting a peculiar feature, like they are highly territorial. They won't allow in other fishes in their territory. That is a very much a unique feature for these coral reef fishes. And these fishes includes Chaetodontidae, that is nothing but uh, butterfly fish, Labridae, Pomacentridae, Acanthuridae, Apogonidae, and Scaridae. Most of the fishes are depending upon the algae found in the reef area, and some of these fishes like Chaetodontidae, then Labridae, they Scaridae, depending upon the coral calcium. They just nibbling the corals and eat the feeding algae and other associated calcareous materials in the coral reef areas. Some of the coral reef associated fishes, the best colorful fishes associated are living in the reef area. Surgeon fishes, their coloration is very beautiful, and these are all the fishes found in Acanthuridae surgeon fishes and butterfly fishes, Chaetodontidae. They are available huge colors and huge structures, and you can see their color and patterns are huge attractive. And these are animal fishes living with the coral reef associated fishes and animal fish, sweet lips, snappers, and these people, these animals are mostly depending upon the algae found in the reef area. Parrot fishes, they are the most problematic fishes because they often find damaging the corals by nibbling their mouth parts. You can see they just rasping the calcareous structure in the reef area. Definitely striatus, these are edible value. Some of the other fishes, serenity, the angelfish. So these fishes are kept under the endangered species and conserved by the IUCN in most of the countries. And these are some of other fishes. So what is the problem, present status? Why we are bothered about this coral reefs now? Almost 27% of world's coral reefs lost due to human activities. So these human activities include shoreline development, polluted runoff from agricultural land use, agricultural and domestic sewage from land use practices, over harvesting and unsustainable means of over harvesting, using destructive fishing practices in most of the developing countries. People are using ammonium nitrate. So nitrate is nothing but a fertilizer. People are using it as a crude weapon to get more fishes in the reef areas and ship groundings. And lastly comes the climate impacts. So these changes won't have much impact, but the climate impacts right from 1998 causes great consideration for this. Because during 1998, a massive climate-related coral bleaching event was reported, and this destroyed or degraded an additional 16% of the coral reefs of the belt. Prior to 1998, in India, coral bleaching was not recorded and not much attention. And after 1998, this is a global phenomenon that occurs during El Nino. That El Nino phenomenon induced sea surface warming that caused this coral bleaching. Thereafter, people are having more studies and systematic studies in the coral reef throughout the globe. After that, additional 32% of the world's coral reefs are now seriously threatened. And a total of 40% of the world's coral reefs may be lost by 2020, particularly those near human populations. And according to one prediction based on modeling, 58% of coral reefs may be lost by 2030. This is all speculation based upon the current predictions. So what happens? So it is because of increase in sea surface temperature. So as it is through climate change impacts mediated through El Nino phenomenon, El Nino Southern Oscillation phenomenon. These SSTs in the Pacific, Atlantic and Indian Ocean is a major culprit for the coral bleaching. So normally the corals can thrive within the 22, 20 to 28 degrees centigrade. This is the optimum temperature wherein you can get a whole number of coral reefs. So if it is more exceeding 29, 30, then ultimately it would be stressful condition because so the coral host that is endosymbiotic algae, that dinoflagellate algae, zooxanthellae, is highly sensitive to coral changes. That any changes in the temperature ultimately affect these coral reefs, this coral zooxanthellae, and in turn this coral will be in trouble. And that increased SST 0.4 to approximately zero point 0.7 degrees centigrade in the last century. And it was the highest recorded in 4 lakh years previously. And this annual SST differences is gradually increased to zero point 0.5 to 1, and gradually it goes beyond that 2, 1 to 2, and it is goes 3 degrees centigrade elevation. So the increasing reports and attention to coral bleaching because after 1998, that coral bleaching episodes are continuously occurring. After 1998, coral bleaching was recorded in 2002. That magnitude is almost similar to that of 1998. Thereafter 2002, then 2005, 2006, then 2010. Thereafter, 2010, 2015, 2016, and 17, now the coral bleaching occurs. It seems to be a perennial problem. Okay, so during the summer months, these coral bleaching is occur, and the cumulative number of bleaching reports are day by day increasing. Okay, all over the globe. And this enormous damage to the coral reefs are expected due to the climate change in the next 30 years, only because of this increasing sea surface temperature. Often, this sea surface temperature increase is related to the El Nino phenomenon. Whenever the El Nino year occurs, at the time that sea surface temperature automatically increase to 2 to 3 degrees centigrade, that will be the more problem for the coral reefs. So what happened to coral reefs during the SST elevation? So normally the corals will be in colorful because this colorfulness is because of the endosymbiotic algae. This endosymbiotic algae may occur in green color, brown color, and a normal healthy reef is looking like this because the coral host, that endosymbiotic algae is inside the coral host. So the colony close up, you can see the zooxanthellae is present inside the coral. And if the continuously and elevated sea surface temperature leads to the stressed condition. So this stressed condition in due course eliminate or expel the zooxanthellae from the coral skeletons. In due course, it leads to the total expulsion leads to the whitening of the corals. And this condition is called coral bleaching. And during this condition, the coral find it difficult to thrive for sustenance because almost 90 percentage of the feeding requirement is fulfilled by these zooxanthellae. If the zooxanthellae is totally expelled, then ultimately this coral will be in trouble. Only 10 percentage of the feeding requirement is fulfilled by on its own by these coral reefs. And these zooxanthellae are expelled from the coral reefs, digested, and these pigments within zooxanthellae also are degraded. So ultimately, the coral tend to be white in color, and this condition is highly stressful for the organism. So the coral host can, this coral reef, that whitened coral reefs, can survive without any support for a short duration uh, under the stressful condition. So if the duration is exposed, the exposure is more. If the SST is elevation is continuously more than 2 to 3 weeks, then the coral will find it difficult. So environmental stress induces the bleaching. Other factors other than the high water temperature is sedimentation, desalinization is because of freshwater mix and UV radiation, viral infection. And these are all temporary and these are all mostly localized. And this is not prevalently found global level in a long stretch. But this high water temperature is nothing but the outcome of the climate change impacts, that is outbreak caused by the El Nino phenomenon, warm water current originated from the Peruvian coast. So during Christmas time, this warm water current starts from the Peruvian coast and pass all over the globe. So the warm water current's characteristic feature is 2 to 3 degrees centigrade elevation in surface water. So these 2 to 3 degrees centigrade elevation always giving trouble to the zooxanthellae. So the growth inhibition and leading to mortality, and the corals are, since they are highly sensitive to environmental change, especially SST elevation. That is a major problem. You can see under lab condition bleaching by strong light stress. So up to 1 hour, 2 hours, these are stressful conditions. Thereafter, after 24 hours, you can see the changes. And if the continuous exposure to strong at 25, 26 degrees centigrade, that you can see that the expulsion of zooxanthellae, then it is the condition called whitening. This is called the polyp in due course changes the color, colorless. That is the condition called coral bleaching. So the bleaching worldwide recorded from 1998, the predominant coral bleaching occurs in the Caribbean islands, in the American continent, and in the African continent, and India, Southeast Asia, and the coral triangle area, Thailand, Indonesia, and northern Australia, the Great Barrier Reef. And the incidence and severity of mass coral bleaching events has increased continuously over the last 2 decades, almost more than 10 times. Coral bleaching occurs 10 times in this area. And prior to that, 1998 mass coral bleaching, the coral bleaching was occurred in Great Barrier Reef during 7980 and Eastern Pacific Indonesia, that is the uh, coral triangle area in 82, 83. Great Barrier Reef again in 86, 87, Andaman Sea, Jamaican Sea in the 1991, 93, 94. But the global attention was occurred only during the 98 bleaching because that year is go along with that El Nino phenomenon. So that year was the coral bleaching was almost 90 to 98% all along the globe. And bleaching in fact leaves most of the corals are dying because almost in Indian corals also 70 to 80 percentage are under stress and it 70 to 80 percentage find it difficult to thrive at the time. And thereafter 2000, 2002, 5, 6, 7 and now the 2010 is again the massive coral bleaching. It occurs after 15, 16, 17. So the coral bleaching occurs regularly. So now this coral bleaching seems to be a perennial problem. And global warming indicators. These are all the coral reefs are the most sensitive of all ecosystems to global warming and pollution and new diseases. So if anything occurs locally, ultimately the coral can have the ability to come back, recovery in a short span of time. But the coral bleaching occurs due to global warming mediated climate change will last for long and in most of the cases the coral's resilience to recovery is very poor. So, as the most important resources for fisheries, tourism, shore protection, and marine biodiversity for more than 100 countries, this will be a huge disaster because the fishery will be very less and the coral reefs are important indicators. We need to pay vital attention to this. So I would like to give a pictorial representation of coral bleaching. So these are all healthy coral reefs of Acropora and Acropora tablet and green corals. And these colors are because of the coral zooxanthellae, that the coral host, a symbiotic partner, that coral host. So that is very much essential for the coloration. So this zooxanthellae provides more amount of feeding materials as well as helpful to reef accretion, calcium accretion by the process of photosynthesis. They help the animals to build the reef-like structure, this calcareous structure to large distance. Okay. So this coral health, this photograph taken during 2005. During 2010, we have recorded during the coral bleaching time, you can see the colorful corals after the expulsion due to the sea surface temperature, elevation, the expelled zooxanthellae is leaving the coral host, and this is the coral bleaching condition. Okay. So that sea surface temperature elevation was recorded in the Oman and Muscat because the large buoys are placed in that area and they fixed them buoys at Maldives and the Maldives is the point of nearby our area and that area during that 1998 you can see the elevation exceeding is goes up to 32, 33. So this is the uh, exceeding limit. From 30 to 33 is the most alarming condition, and this 1990 El Nino lead to severe global mass bleaching event, and 90% of coral mortality in Maldives and associated coral reefs in the Indian coast and Andaman coast, and almost all these coral reefs are very much problem facing severe consequences. And this survival of corals depends on immediate recolonization with new symbiotic microalgae. And this found only if the exposure timing, for example, if the stress condition, that bleaching condition exists for a short duration. For example, if it is lies within 1 month, then the coral host can recolonize to the original host. But in most of the cases, the coral bleaching starts in the month of April and it goes beyond June. So the 3 months test, most of the corals could not thrive, and this is the major problem. So you can see the various stages of coral bleaching. So the gradual expulsion of this coral zooxanthellae, like first purple color, then sluggish brown, and in due course it is in the white color. So these are all at the different time limits permits these organisms. These are all purple colors are showing that the last stage wherein the coral find it very difficult and it's a extreme stressful condition. Large rock-like corals also sensitive to changes in the temperature, even though they are very strong enough, then they are very much sensitive to changes because of the expulsion of the corals. So these may changes occurs due to the local changes, also from global changes in the sea surface temperature. The best example is that these are all the corals living in the shallow waters of Gulf of Mannar. They are very fast growing, and so during the extreme SST episodes, you could see the total whitening of the corals because of total expulsion leads to the total whitening, and you could see, and this is the extremely stressful condition, and during this condition, that sedimentation and other problem will amplify the stresses. Okay, so you could see that large amount of rocky corals also subject to this coral bleaching. During this condition, the coral fishes, mostly depending on these resources, find it very difficult to survey. You can see that more coral depth, finding the depth zones, they are also subject to bleaching. You could see that rocky lake corals are totally whitened because of this SST elevation. SST elevation, please remind that this is a often result of that climate change mediated environmental problem. So these find in 2 to 3 meters. This is a normal coral with ambient temperature in a normal condition with the coral zooxanthellae, and later the expulsion leads to these kind of structures. Later, if the stresses goes beyond 2 months, the corals ultimately this smothering algae. This algae is not good for these corals. They just smothering, that is engulf or covers the surface of the corals, and in due course, this interesting algae found along the corals, and it is not the good condition because after this some days, then this will be make into rubbles, broken pieces. So the coral which grows only millimeter level during every year is make into rubbles within 1 or 2 months, only because of this coral bleaching events. So various stages of coral bleaching you can see. So some corals develop some, even though these pictures are taken in the same day, you can see that some of the corals are showing resistance. So this is because of the zooxanthellae's ability to withstand. Because these zooxanthellae have more number of clades. There are 5 to 6 clades in the zooxanthellae clades. So each and every zooxanthellae shows some resistance towards this bleaching. So you can see this different threshold limits of the coral bleaching. See, some corals are still it is fine, thrive to sustain in this bleaching event, but most of the corals more vulnerable will die, and the interesting algae covers. And these are some of the most sensitive coral reefs found in the very shallow depth. And I would like to show some video clippings. Is the video is okay?
Yes, sir.
So this is the coral. So bear with me the quality of the picture because these are all taken at a depth of 3 to 5 meters in the Gulf of Mannar area. This is taken near Mandapam group of islands, and you can see these are all the coral species known as Acropora. So these corals are very much develop the ability to overcome the water turbulence and sedimentation. So you can see that structures. So these areas harbors huge amount of these ornamental fishes, and these ornamental fishes are highly territorial. They won't allow other groups because most of the fishes are found as a schools. Now a group of fishes, they are living around 50 to 100 fishes, and they are never allow other species. And this seems to be very quite beautiful while you are diving in these waters. Since our Gulf of Mannar in the southeast coast has two options. So throughout the year, the sea is very turbulent because of the southwest monsoon and the northeast monsoon activity. So the clarity of water will be very minimal, and only during the time of January, February, March, only the turbulence will be very minimal. So the clarity is like this only. So in this area, you can find more number of colonies. There are 6 to 7 type of coral reef species are there, and these are all shallow water corals. Often they find it in 2 to 3 meter range of the depth, and then this area is called Acropora Belt, the Gulf of Mannar in the Mandavum group up to runs up to Jaffna Peninsula. This Acropora is predominantly found. Can you see the new video?
It's still patchy. It's not smooth, sir.
Yeah. It is because of the video quality. Eh? Kindly
Okay,
bear
sir.
with
Okay.
me.
Now it's in that case we are able to see the videos, yes, sir.
So this abundance of corals found only during 2005. Okay, previously. So the even though that 1998 bleaching spoils most of the coral bed, but after some time this coral can have the ability to recover. But continuous coral bleaching episodes cause a major problem for the recovery of these corals because the stretch is nowadays limited to very few uh, feet. Okay. These are all found up to 5 meters. So if you are a scuba diver, then you can enjoy this beauty, and this will be a very happy moments in your life when you enter through scuba diving without disturbing the corals. You can see the stretches. And you can see some different type of species because among corals there are strong competition for space because this coral always have some competition within themselves because of the poor availability of the substrate because hard substrate only provides a good place for the settlement of larvae and continuance of these reef structures. Even though these species are very fast growing organisms and during the time of coral bleaching, that is the sea surface temperature elevation, and these are the species respond very fast and they are the first species showing bleaching. After the bleaching episodes, and these species, especially these plate-like corals, are showing fast recovery, and you can see this new recruitment in most of the areas. And this video clipping taken up to 7 meters in the Tuticorin area. This rock-like structure is nothing but porites lobata, and they are very much stable corals. They face strong wave action, and they grow up to 5 to 10 meters. Hope you can get first-hand information about the coral reef distribution in our area. Come to back. So hope you view my PowerPoint.
I can see the PowerPoint.
It's okay. It's from El Nino. Okay. So the episodes, the coral bleaching episodes are first recorded in the Gulf of Mannar as well as in the Indian coast from globally is after the recording of El Ninos because 1998 that year was strongly proclaimed as El Nino year, and this El Nino phenomenon is mediating or instigating the some warm water current from the coast of Peru, that South American country, from the Peruvian coast. During the time of Christmas time, this warm water current originates and this travel all along the globe and cause the huge problem for the coral reefs. And this El Nino is an irregularly periodical variation in winds and sea surface temperatures over the tropical eastern Pacific Ocean and affecting much of the tropics and subtropics. And the warming phase is known as El Nino, and the two cooling phase is La Nina because the warm phase of El Nino is followed by the cooling phase. During the time, you can see the warm water totally replaced by cooling water. Okay, so it is also known as El Nino Southern Oscillation. And previously, these major El Nino episodes, this El Nino is a typical example of ocean and atmospheric and terrestrial interaction, and very much manifested by the climate change mediated effects. And this first El Nino record was 1982 to 83, and 1997 to 98 was the recent history recorded this El Nino events. And this outcome that during 97-98 episodes, El Nino episodes resulted in SST elevation to 1.5 degrees centigrade compared to the usual increase by 0.25 degrees centigrade in the previous case of El Nino. Because during the 97-98 only, the temperature exceeding more than 1.5 degrees centigrade. And that year marks more number of flooding in took place in Peru and even in South Asia and Asia. Even we can recorded in Vaigai in the entire coast of Park Bay is totally changed. The color of the Park Bay Sea is totally changed to brown because of the heavy flood. And at that time, it was totally calamity, and the calamity was sick in most of the economies of the developing countries and island nations. So the thermal anomaly occurs and instigate the regional global climate change. That is a major problem for the global corals. So the recent climate change mediated impacts on the oceanic ecosystem is on major areas are three, and one is changing ocean temperature, second one is changing sea level, and changing ocean pH. So the impact of the second and third, the changing sea level, approximately 1.5 to 10 millimeter per year, zero point 0.06 to zero point 0.4 inches per year, at a global average of increase to year 2100. So it is very much long-term effect. And changing ocean pH, average surface ocean pH decreases from 8.2 to 7.8, and this leads to most of the problems like ocean acidification. This problem always cause corals fragility, and coral skeleton will in due course become weakening. But these two second, this changing sea level and ocean pH will be a long-term threat. But the imminent and immediate threats are changing ocean temperature. That is, it increased to 2 to 4 degrees centigrade, and global average increased by year 2100. So if it continuously increasing the level, then ultimately it is not good for the coral growth. But common belief that the projected impact of climate change, Earth's mean surface temperature, will warm to 1.4 to 5.8 degrees centigrade by the end of the 21st century. Land areas warming more than the ocean, and in the high latitude and more than in the tropics. So during the April and May, normally the atmospheric temperature in most of the tropical countries is more, and that also enhances that acting in collision with that SST elevation caused by this El Nino and other factors, worsening the situations of corals. So the cumulative impact is beyond the tolerable condition, and this would be the perennial threat for the coral reefs. On the other hand, with no greenhouse gases at all in its atmosphere, scientists estimate that the Earth's average atmospheric temperature would be about minus 18 degrees centigrade. But human activities in the industrial and other transportation forms increase the global warming mediated that carbon dioxide and other gases of greenhouse gases. They continuously find the threat, and it leads to the cumulative phenomena like El Nino, and they cause the coral bleaching events. Previously occurs only 1998, thereafter it occurs 2002. Then there was a mild localized bleaching events after 2005 and 7 and 6 and 2010. Again, there is a massive global coral bleaching. Thereafter, the episodes are continuing, and nowadays, every year, for example, 2016, 2016, 2017, and 2018, we have recorded a huge uh, coral reef bleaching, and you are all aware that these are the major greenhouse gases causing this uh, climate change. And the greenhouse gas content of the atmosphere is being altered by human activity. And the result of this change is global warming. And this global warming mediated changes totally affect biodiversity in the more sensitive and the more productive regions like coastal areas. Because most of the coastal resources are able to tolerate the changes mediated by climate change, but coastal resources like this coral reefs and the sea grasses are very much vulnerable to the changing temperatures in the SST. So the biodiversity and climate change nexus, the links between biodiversity and the climate change run both ways. But in most of the cases, biodiversity is threatened by climate change, and in terrestrial conditions, we can, to some extent, we can manage properly, and we can recover the biodiversity, and this biodiversity can reduce the impacts of climate change. And biodiversity and the ecosystems like forests and wetlands and oceans play a role in climate regulation and impacts regional and global climate change. Whether it is terrestrial or aquatic, they are having huge role in regulating the seasons and monsoons. And the changing climate has become a major driver of biodiversity loss, because this climate change mediated changes always changes drivers, major drivers of biodiversity loss, and threatens its role as a source of essential goods and services, because we are receiving more number of ecosystem services from terrestrial as well as aquatic conditions, and the marine ecosystem services are innumerable, and they are supplementing our protein requirement in most of the developing countries, because most of the people living near the coastal areas are totally depending upon this protein supplement from these fishery resources. So in due course, you can see the melting of ice leaves the sea level rise, and most of the polar bears find the place is melting, and more biodiversity in all areas seems to be threatened. The predicted sea level changes, the continuous sea level changing due to the melting of ice. And what is the factor? The synergistic effect. Ultimately, that the interaction of natural changes and human activity through causing by multiple impacts, changing the coral ecosystem to algal dominated ecosystem, because coral ecosystem is very perfect, and in due course due to continuous and eternal coral bleaching episodes leads to the changes in the substrate. If the corals just totally disappear in this area, then that area is quickly colonized by the algal competitors, because algae is a strong competitor in this area. Besides this coral disappearance, the domestic sewage discharged in the coastal areas also supports the nutrient levels, because in normal open ocean coastal areas, the coral requires good quality water. Nutrient should be very much in availability, should be in a restricted way. For example, nitrate and phosphate levels should be very minimal. So if it goes beyond or unchecked, as in the case of discharges from domestic sewages, they are highly rich in phosphate and nitrates. Agricultural fertilizer usage also give more agriculture runoff from the river basins, and all these are helpful to grow more algae in the reef area. So in due course, the synergistic effects of these climate-mediated changes leads to once coral dominated coastal areas to algal dominated place. Once the algae encroaches the place of corals, then there won't be any diversity in this area. And this would be a calamity, and this will leads to large dead blow to the fisheries in the coastal areas that cause unemployment and poor ecotourism development. The best example for the algal encroachment is these coral reefs are pristine area where no disturbances. This is a healthy coral reef environment. So due to some algal encroachments, like this one is Kappa ficus. That Kappa ficus in due course entangled with the corals, in due course make the corals into rubbles. Okay. So these are all the typical example for the coral algal overgrowth, algal encroachment over the coastal areas. So the some other means of developing this bleaching impacts. These impacts of bleaching can be minimized by reducing local stresses. Reducing the local stresses by induced stresses such as sedimentation, land reclamation, over harvesting, sewage pollution. If we can curtailing or limiting or try to avoid this or to a minimum level this sedimentation and land reclamation and over harvesting, unsustainable means of harvesting that fishery resources, discharges of the sewage and the pollution of aquatic water body may lead to safe coral reef areas. So you can see the bleaching impact in due course encourages the macroalgae cover, and in due course you can see the habitat complexity coral cover will comes down, and the species richness of fishes also comes down. So the micro and macroalgae domination inhibits the coral recovery, because almost all these areas are taken down by this algae. It leads to the coral larvae to find hard to settle down. So the coral larvae, the planula larvae, is find it difficult to settle and grow. And most corals cannot compete with them, especially in nutrient-rich environment, because this nutrient-rich environment like phosphate and nitrate always supports immune and rampant growth of algae. So in this environment, the coral find it difficult to develop or grow in the new species. So again, the global climate impacts are likely to amplify or encouraged by local sources like deforestation, poor land use patterns that ultimately end up with sedimentation and the discharges of more nutrients through sewage or nutrient runoff. This causes more pollution and more nutrient supply that will always helps to grow algae rather than the growth of coral reefs. The threshold of nutrient levels for coral reef ecosystem should be much lower than the temperate ecosystem. But the case is totally vary, because almost in the Indian Ocean, you can see that due to urbanization and due to more industrial activities, domestic sewages, including the nutrient from phosphate and nitrate levels, are day by day it is increasing. So this in due course limited the recovery potential of the corals and resist and decrease the resilience of the corals. Other than this, indiscriminate exploitation and chemical pollution, soil erosion have the cumulative effect. Ultimately, destabilize the coastal resources, especially the coral reef areas. Coastal development activity, dredging, port development, and other development activity always pose a threat to sedimentation. And this sedimentation is nothing but the blocking the sunlight in the coastal areas and the coral reef areas. And this blocking the sunlight ultimately cause the photosynthesis into a very slow phase. And in due course, this will maybe a problem for the coral reef accretion in the areas. Shoreline developments, breakwaters, and artificial reefs all are problems for the coral reefs recruitment. So the anthropogenic stress are developed by human being and the global warming mediated climate change will constantly run the coral reefs at risk. And a high proportion of IOC member states are directly or indirectly dependent on coral reefs for their sustainable livelihood. And now people are trying more research to overcome these coral reefs, to develop these coral reef stretch in almost all the countries. And constant research is moving in this direction. And in due course, this will be comes down and help the corals to grow in a free environment. Thank you. If you have any doubt, don't hesitate to ask. You please post your questions and doubts.
Thank you, sir. That was a wonderful presentation. Participants, if you have any questions, please direct it to Professor, or you can type in the chat box so we can convey it. So there is one question for you from Dr. Kannan Vaidyanathan on the chat box.
Yes. You have taken us another part of colored beautiful world. Yeah, yes, yes, it is. If you are a diver, then enter into the waters. Then you can find that the life's beautiful moments are there. So the colorful, see, you could see a forest inside the water. See, you can find the forest in the terrestrial condition. If you enter into the reef area, then it is a new world. And it is a joyful scientific venture. If you come across, if you are familiar with the diving, scuba diving, then it would be a momentous life. Yes, please, any other questions?
So how does the coastal bridging activities or shipping activities affect the coral reef? Is there any direct effects on it?
Actually, near the source, for example, the corals are available up to 4 to 5 kilometers from the Gulf of Mannar area. In most of the areas, if away from that 6 to 7 kilometers, you can find the islands. Thereafter, you can find the corals are in the more depth zones. But the ship routes are major problem because if they take the routes in the more depth zones, it won't affect. But if they approach near the source, for example, in the Tuticorin Harbor area, and this area would be very problematic. Ship grounding is the phenomenon. Often the problem occurs. Ship grounding means they just anchoring the boats in the reef, and that would cause more problem. And the development activities like harbor building and other activities, so they are import huge fertilizers and chemical compounds that spillover effects may cause the change in the water quality. That would be very much visible in the Tuticorin port area. We have personally saw that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, if any question is not there, then I will conclude this.
Yes, sir. In
Okay,
that
thank
case,
you.
participants, if there are no other questions, on behalf of the organizing committee, on behalf of the participants, it was an interesting presentation, sir. Thank you for giving us and sharing us insight on the terrestrial aquatic ecosystem and giving us a tour, virtual tour of the coral reefs. It was a really interesting presentation, sir. Thank you. Thank you for this.
Thank you, and I would like to thank you all for patient hearing because People are thought that most of the climate change impacts are on the land, but it is more pronounced in the aquatic ecosystem. Okay, so I am really happy to interact with you. Thank you very much.